Hello, this is Dr. Stephen Cangiano. I am the president and co-founder of RDT.Media and Events with its online companions, relationship-development.com and humanity-upgrade.com. Today, I'm welcoming an old friend. We've known each other for more than 20 years, Dr. Roger Boger. I have a lot of respect for Roger. Roger was one of my mentors. He also somebody I can relate to because we both came from an academic background. He actually was in academics, then he went into dentistry. He was in academics and dentistry. He was very successful in dentistry and then went into sales, marketing, real estate. He's really done it all at an extremely high level, And again, a lot of times I interview people, I don't know them. I can say this from personal experience intermittently over the last 20 years. So Roger, excuse the informal introduction. Did I leave anything out important? It's really a genuine respect for you and everything you've done.
The only thing you left out is my mutual respect for you, Dr. Cangiano, Steve. But, you know, I've always admired your professionalism and how you helped when we had doctors panels, et cetera, with a former business that we were both involved with. So thanks very much for this opportunity to share some thoughts that's in my heart and in my mind today.
Very good, very good. So, you know, today we're going to talk about a new, it's not new, it's actually been around a lot of time, but it's really getting a lot of notice in a lot of different venues. And we're going to cut through the mythology. We're going to talk about the science because there's nobody better at articulating. Not only is Roger a great a scientist, but he's great at articulating it in a very understandable way. So I want to start with a statement. So Roger is actually working with a company called Cannabis, and what they're doing is they're in CBD products, cannabidiol, which is and he's going to explain this in detail. But before we start, I was watching some. I was just trying to educate myself on the topic, and I ran into a video from a Dr. David Allen, and he said this. And this, I want you to bring this into context because it seems a little bit over the top for me. The discovery of Endocannabinoid System is the single most important medical scientific discovery ever. This is what he's saying. And he also said in the video that it's going to save more lives than sterile surgery. Again, give me some context for that and what you think about those statements.
Well, thanks, Steve. Well, David Allen is a heart surgeon. And what he's learned about this endocannabinoid system and about cannabinoids is they're the most potent anti-inflammatory plant on the face of the planet. Now, inflammation is common etiologically to the three main killers of people in the United States today: heart disease, cancer, and stroke. If you have the lining of your heart arteries, called the stratum intima, if it gets inflamed, what my kids, MDs, say, well, let's attack the cholesterol because it's narrowing the artery. Why is it narrowing the artery, though? Nature's way is that the cholesterol patches over the inflammation. So if this is your anterior descending coronary artery called the widowmaker, and if it's inflamed inside here, the cholesterol goes to patch it over. Where does the inflammation come from? Sugar, gluten, standard American diet, lack of exercise, stress, all those things. So what happens is that the cholesterol patches it over. But you're still inflamed because you haven't changed your lifestyle. So the cholesterol patches it over again. And this represents the lumen of your coronary artery, and patches it over again and again until one day it does that. That's called a coronary occlusion. A stroke is the same process. It's a heart attack of the brain. So the cannabis products are the most potent anti-inflammatory on the face of the planet. So that, just as a rather lengthy segue introduction, by itself is why David Allen, the heart surgeon, when he looks at the coronary arteries, all he's seeing, and I've heard him discuss it, is like somebody took sandpaper and rubbed the inside of the coronary arteries and got them all inflamed. And then the cholesterol goes to patch it over. We're calling the cholesterol the bad guy. The cholesterol is not the bad guy. It's the inflammation that's the bad guy. And cannabis is the most potent anti-inflammatory. I know that's rather lengthy segue introduction, but that's what's going on.
No, that really clears it up because the inflammatory basis of disease, oxidation, oxidative stress is really, I mean, it's incontrovertible. It's well known in science, and there's a lot of key environmental stresses, food stresses, toxicities, et cetera, et cetera. So then let's clear this up. You know, obviously there's a little stigma to cannabinoid, and obviously it's totally unfounded, but I just want it for those few people who still are kind of lingering on that, clear the stigma up for us. And yeah, let's head that one off right at the pass.
I like you using the word incontrovertible. That's a Winston Churchill. The truth is incontrovertible. Malice may attack it and ignorance may deride it, but in the end, there it is. So where are we today? Where we are today is where I was, I'm 75 years old. So I'm thinking, I don't want to have anything to do with weed because I thought everything that was cannabis was marijuana. In reality, here's the difference. Cannabis, think of cannabis as the parent plant, and the cannabis has two kids, okay? One kid is hemp, grown for industrial reasons. There are 50,000 uses for hemp. Everything you can make out of plastic, you can make out of hemp, paper, clothing, everything. And then the other kid is marijuana. Marijuana is grown mostly for the concentration of THC, tetrahydrocannabinoid, which is the psychotropic part of that plant. It's grown to make you high. I thought it all was the same, when in reality, the parent had two kids, hemp and marijuana. So we're in the hemp business.
Right. So just to clear that up, weed, marijuana, whatever, that has the hallucinogenic, psychoactive properties that people get from smoking and getting high. And that is tetrahydrocannabinol is the active ingredient in that. And in CBD, there is no THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, no psychotropic, psychoactive, hallucinogenic effects. Is that correct?
Correct. Now, CBD, just to be clear, Dr. C, there are 140 phytocannabinoids and counting, 140 type substances in plants. One of them is THC that you alluded to. That's a phytocannabinoid. One of them is CBD that you mentioned. That's a phytocannabinoid. But there's CBN, CBG, there's over 100 phytocannabinoids that are components of this plant. Many of them active, and many of them, I think, site-specific that we'll get to, I'm sure, to different receptor sites in the body.
Gotcha. It was fascinating to me that it seems this endocannabinoid system has only been discovered over the last 30 or 40 years. Is that accurate? That's, in medical terms, that's yesterday.
Yes. Well, Dr. Raphael Meshulam in Israel, using American funding, money, was commissioned to do research on the effects of cannabis on cancer cells. And what he found was three things happen, Steve. Number one, the exposure of cannabis to cancer cells causes apoptosis, which is death of the cancer cells. Number two, it causes a reduction in angiogenesis. And what that 50-cent word means is that it reduces the blood supply to the tumor, which brings oxygen and food so the tumor can exist. And number three, it reduces the ability for the tumor cells themselves to replicate. Now, to your point, that discovery was 29 years ago. 29 years ago, yet very few people in the American public are aware of the endocannabinoid system and the effect that it has on malignant cells.
Yeah. So the analogy I would make is like basically we have an endogenous, we have a system that in our bodies that recognize opiates. Like endorphins are an important part of our physiology. However, And so there's a whole endorphin system in the body that is well documented. It's just shocking to me that less than 30 years ago, they didn't know that they knew about marijuana, they knew about the effects, but they didn't know the health effects of this. The anti-inflammatory model, and how well documented is the anti-inflammatory effects of cannabinoids?
Well, where men and women who practice medicine go, as you know, Steve, is to pubmed.gov. And there, you can type into the browser cannabis/any disease. You will find in that site 24,700 studies done over the last 20 years. That's an average of 2 studies being done every day for 20 years. Yet all we see on TV is take this purple pill, ask your doctor if this pill is right for you. Also, there's another site called echoconnection.org, echoconnection.org. And on there, there's 3 tabs. One of them says education. You click on learn more. And then there's 150 diseases there listed alphabetically, Steve. And you can, let's say under A, you'll see Alzheimer's, ADD, ADHD. If you click on Alzheimer's, up will pop 20 or 30 studies, titles. You click on the title, and then you'll see what a profound impact cannabis has on people who can't remember what day it is.
Amazing. So what's the mechanism of action? You said anti-inflammatory. I know I was reading there's receptors in the brain, there's receptors in the body. What is it doing? And
I'm sorry. What Dr. Raphael Mechoulam did discover was that there are receptor sites called CB1 in the cerebral cortex. There's CB2 receptors in the body viscera, in the spleen, the pancreas, the surfaces of white blood cells. And about 12 weeks ago, CB3 receptors were found on the surfaces of cancer cells. Now, when you come full circle on the statement I made earlier about his original research, now it makes sense. Okay, there's CB3 receptors on the surfaces of cancer cells. All of these receptors, Steve, are part of a specialized chemical system that Dr. Allen referred to called the Human Endocannabinoids System, the ECS. You can Google that and look it up. Just punch in capital E, capital C, capital S. And what you will find there is that this system, when fed, causes a homeostasis or balance of all other 12 systems in the body. The neurologic system, the circulatory system, the skeletal system, and so forth. When that system is fed, interestingly enough, and is balanced, it's sort of analogous to the breaker switch you have in your basement that controls all the power in your home. The endocannabinoid system is like turning on the breaker switch that turns on all the other electrical systems in your house. Here in this case, however, it's a chemical system. So this endocannabinoid system, as you alluded to earlier, was discovered 30 years ago. And now about 13% of allopathically trained kids that are going to medical schools, at least that's being taught and mentioned in the medical school curricula, because now there is so much research out there. And now with the passage of the Farm Bill 2018, more research will be conducted here in the United States. And as they say, the cat's out of the bag. You know, I mean, we've come back. And 75 years ago, we knew about this. This was cannabis was part of the American Pharmacopoeia until the middle 1940s. And then it was taken away. And we can address that later. So rather than rant, I'll allow you to refocus.
No, you're doing great. So let's talk about 2 applications of this. I think one is for wellness, balance, and the other one is if people are, and again, I don't know how deep we can get into the medical issues, but what is the use of this? What can people expect when they use it? When should they use it? How should they use it?
Okay, well, they can expect better balance. Because of compliance, Cannabinoid does not make medical claims. However, we do encourage people to go and do their research. So when somebody says to me, hey, will this help me with my Alzheimer's? Or will this help me with peripheral neuropathy? Or will this help me with my blood pressure? Or will this help me with my malignancies? Or will this help me with et cetera, right? I say, well, it's interesting. I refer you to I encourage you to do your own research, and then you decide. So that's the way we want people to become, number one, aware and educated. And number two, we don't want to make medical claims. This is a plant. And feeding your cannabinoid system is like, should I take vitamin C? Should I take vitamin B12? Should I drink proper water? You know what I mean? Should I eat vegetables? Whatever it is. This is the same thing. And when people say, will it cure me of this? We say, no, it does not cure you. What happens is the endocannabinoid system, when fed, will put this genius, this meat suit that we're walking around in a position to heal itself, because it's smart. Our bodies are smart. So we frame it that way, and that makes much more sense. And the good news is you cannot overdose from it, any of these products, and except if a person is on a blood thinner, they want to reduce their serving size by half. So your other part of your question was, how do they take this? The Cannabinoid Corporation is the largest grower of hemp in the world, and they were the first to bring these isolates to the United States. You're going to see CBD is the buzzword, all over the country now, because the Farm Bill 2018 has now made it legal to grow hemp in every state in the United States. So, however, the company that will dominate this space is Cannabinoid, because they're first to market. Just sort of like if I were to say to you, Steve, do you have a Kleenex? Well, you'll give me a paper tissue. It might be a puff, but we both grew up hearing the word Kleenex, so we know what that means. I say, Steve, could you have one of your staff make a Xerox copy of this? Well, they'll hand me a copy of a document, but it may very well not have been made on a Xerox copying machine because they dominated the space. Or do I have a piece of chocolate? The first company that comes to your mind is Hershey's. Well, 36 months from now, because Cannabinoid is first to market, what you're going to hear people say is, as soon as their reticular activating system has been turned on, I'll speak to that in a second. Do you have a Cannabinoid, Dr. Cangiano? Do you have a Cannabinoid? Sort of rhymes. Cannon, Giano, Cannabinoid. Anyway, that's pretty clever. So, so that's what's going on with that.
Gotcha. All right, good. Yeah. So you really feel.
The other thing, excuse me. The other thing is, well, how does it come? Well, the product can be taken as an oil that you put sublingually. It can be taken as a salve that you put superficially on the body. It can be taken as a vape, which passes the blood-brain barrier in 3 to 5 seconds to get to the CB1 receptors in the brain for people who do have addiction issues, people who are depressed, for people who do have PTSD, etc. Okay. Again, I refer you to the research. I'm not making a medical claim. However, we've seen this over and over again. And also, it is in proteins that we consume. Hemp protein, the highest concentration of protein on the face of the planet. The big bodybuilders today are not using meat. They're using beans and lentils and hemp. I use hemp seeds on my salad. I use hemp milk in the morning. We don't do dairy. Okay. Hemp was very, very prevalent historically, and we can address that if you wish. So I'll stop there. So there's very different ways that you can provide this product to your body, and 6 of the products have 0 THC and are about to be approved by WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency, which approves product intake for professional athletes, law enforcement, military, men and women who drive school buses. So back to you.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I think people are really curious if you can give a brief synopsis of the history of hemp. And it really had tremendous, a lot of applications, and then it got taken from the marketplace. Give them a little history on that. And then I want to bring it in for a landing on, where people can get this, who should be getting it, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, the Reader's Digest version is we can go back 9,000 years, really, because there's evidence in Egypt where I firmly believe that because of what was happening in the pyramids and everything, just because we're further along in time, I'm not so sure today we're just as smart as the Egyptians were to be able to harness power like they did with pyramids and so forth. They weren't tombs. And then fast forward to the Iceman that you are aware of with your heritage. In the northern part of Italy, there was an Iceman discovered, 4,500-year-old man. And they spent the first year looking at his DNA and tissue. And then after the first 12 months, they decided to look in his backpack. And what they found in there was a big hunk of cannabis product the size of a baseball. So it's not new. And again, it was fast forward, part of the American pharmacopoeia till the mid-1940s. Then here's what happened. Economically, hemp can be grown. As I said, there's 50,000 different uses. Everything you can make out of plastic, you can make out of hemp. Well, paper can be harvested from hemp. It's a cane plant. The good news is it cleans up the soil, like sugarcane does. The bad news is that if there's junk in the soil, it becomes an integral part of the plant. But back to the Randolph Hearst thing, you can get 2 or 3 harvests per year because the hemp grows 15, 20 feet tall in one third of a growing season, can be cut down and used for paper. So Randolph Hearst had forests and they were in the paper business. The DuPonts at that time, nylon and rayon, those synthetic fibers were coming out. But you can make clothing out of hemp that like hardly ever wears out. Even back in our history, sailing ship sails were made from hemp. They say, haul up the canvas. Canvas comes from the word cannabis, okay? So it's not new. So combine DuPont and Randolph Hearst and their connection and influence over lobbyists in the US Congress and people that are in the media, they created a pop culture film called Reefer Madness. And in there, it was very disruptive. It showed jazz music, jazz musicians, very disruptive music, very disruptive subset of our technology. And they got crazy smoking these reefers. And they had their way with all the girls. And it was like, it'll get you crazy, crazy. Well, the American public bought into that 75 years ago. They bought into that.
Yeah.
Now, it was part of most medicines as a foundation for most medicines, as you know, Dr. Cangiano, for many, many years. When I was a kid, I'd go to the pharmacist. He was the formulator. And they'd have a mortar and pestle, and they'd grind up seeds and things and terpenes, and then they pass a little bottle out through the window, you know, like when you used to go to the banks, said, if you had the whooping cough, here's your medicine, sonny, because the pharmacist actually formulated. Now you pray to Almighty God, when you go there, they get the right pill out of the right bin. Right. So here we are, fast forward. Now the truth is out. Even almost 30 years afterwards, now with the passage of the Farm Bill of 2018, now hemp is legal to grow in all 50 states in the United States. Now, again, because of these things, you cannot keep the people down on the farm intellectually any longer, because the truth that Churchill, you alluded to, the truth is here. And so now there's a great deal of interest and a great deal of information available for the general public that perhaps, and I'm not saying this negatively about allopaths, but it can take some of the people off of the medicines with all the side effects where they have to be detoxified in the kidney and liver, and let a plant help the body balance and create homeostasis through feeding the endocannabinoid system.
Yeah, beautifully. I mean, we know that from all the many people we've dealt with in the wellness industry that plant-based diets are so much more healthy, longevity, et cetera, et cetera. I had read a lot about hemp, and basically, and just to echo a lot of what you just said there was a lot of financial and very nefarious reasons for keeping hemp down, because it had, besides the cannabinoid, it had other many industrial and a lot of applications that, and much more effective and efficient and cheap way to do things. So yeah, it was, yeah, there is actually some conspiracy theory in there that's not very good. All right. How can people get it, and who should use it? And let's bring that in for a landing there.
Okay, well, I'd like to generally say, Dr. Cangiano, that people buyer beware, because there's an economic component to this. Just like at the end of the prohibition of alcohol, when people were making gin, booze in their bathtubs, there are people out there who are formulating this stuff in the sink in their bathroom. You need to be aware of where the product comes from. This product is grown on a cultivar in Austria that's never been sprayed with pesticides and herbicides. It's non-GMO. There's no self-respecting European that would ever consume genetically modified food. It's messing with our genes, creating gender benders, etc. It is triple lab tested by independent laboratories, as opposed to a lot of pharmaceutical companies that use their own labs, right? It's tested at harvest. It's tested by customs. It's tested as it's put together in San Diego. It is a product that has laboratory assays on the bottom of the bottle that verifies that what's on the label is actually in the bottle. You want to make sure that it meets the biodynamic standards. In Europe, what that means is we call organic here in the United States is what the Europeans call biodynamic standards. And by the way, Steve, it's much more strict than what we call organic here in the United States. So what I wanted to say from a place of love, make sure that you are aware of the source and that what you're getting is the real deal. We went to a friend of mine went to a convention in Pittsburgh and brought home 10 containers that said CBD, because that's an operative word. A lot of people know CBD. 9 of those 10, when assayed at the university here, had no CBD, and one of them had only 50% of what it said on the label. So I want people to recognize that Kannaway is the gold standard. I've researched other companies and selected Kannaway because of this. How people can find out about it, you can go on our website if you want. It's cbdroger.com, cbdroger.com. Also, I encourage you to look at these videos, cbdhempvideos.com, cbdhempvideos.com. And there, the second one, you'll see Dr. David Allen that Dr. Cangiano was talking about, the heart surgeon, that will share with you his opinion and his research.
Very good. You know, Roger, I want to say, because I've known you for 20 years, you would not say, you're not doing this for mercenary reasons. You're doing it because you know that the product works and that it's important to have a high quality product. You and I have been in and around the supplement industry for years, and we know how many not products that aren't, they're not reliable products. And so I will say to everybody here, if Roger says it's reliable, you can count on it.
Listen, Dr. C, one other thing. This company has been on Nightline. It's been on the Dr. Oz show. It's been testimony has been done in front of the World Health Organization by people who are using the Kannaway products that's stopping their seizures. They're sold as medicines in 11 countries around the world. This is the real deal. And this is the company that's bringing the real deal to our country. And now we've opened in 28 countries all over Europe. We'll be opening the Pacific Rim very shortly. So this is, in my humble opinion, this is the place to be with regard to credibility. And the president and CEO of this company, Dr. Stuart Titus, is the world's foremost authority on the human endocannabinoid system. So again, we bring to you, thank you, Dr. Cangiano, what we know is the best.
Yeah, and Roger and I recently did another video that talks about network marketing. And so Roger is not only a medical expert, I know him. He is a medical expert. He's also an entrepreneur in the top 1/10 of 1% in his field, in his industry. So Roger, I have to say it's really phenomenal to have you here. We're really privileged and honored to have you here. I know this is, just one of many videos we're going to do here now and in the future. I really like to thank you for being here. Any last words or comments that you'd like to offer?
I just want to salute you for taking the bull by the horn, so to speak, and getting this information out to the world. You're a visionary. You always have been a visionary. I respect and care about you a lot, and I'm grateful to have this chance to spend some time with you today, Steve.
Thank you, Roger. All right, this is Dr. Stephen Cangiano signing off from RD&T Media and Events. Thank you, Dr. Boger.
Namaste.